So, up next is creating health-based design, beauty, neuroaesthetics, and biophilia, exploring the science shaping the future of design, revealing how elements like biophilia, color, and pattern influence the way we experience space. This session is proudly sponsored by the brand new Atlanta chapter of the Interior Design Society. And I'm also a member of the founding board, and I'm very excited to introduce our chapter president, who's going to share a few words about IDS Atlanta before introducing our next speaker. So a warm welcome to Jenna Jacobs-Freeman.
Hi, everyone. Wasn't that last presentation amazing? I literally got teary-eyed. It was incredible. So what is IDS? What is the Interior Design Society? It's a membership organization where there is programming for interior designers and where we make community. Now, there's a differentiation factor for the Atlanta chapter. We focus on bridging geographic silos and also bridging silos around individuals who work in the interior design industry because as solopreneurs, we work alone. We also want to create community. And here at Interior Design Society, we want to fill a table full of different kinds of people. We want architects, we want interior designers from all levels, we want engineers, everyone is welcome. So imagine a table where we have all different lenses, all different people, and imagine all of the beautiful innovation, all of the ideas, and all the fun that will be had. If you're interested, go back to the table back there, look at all of our stuff, come talk to me. Again, my name's Jenna. We have Tyler here as well, and we will tell you all the goods. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, and that is Mike Peterson, founder of Science and Design Certification Program. Yay! Oop. He will guide us through how science is shaping the future of design. In creating health-based design, beauty, neuroaesthetics, and biophilia, Mike will explore how elements like biophilic design, color, fractal patterning influence how we think, feel, and experience space. Grounded in research from leading institutions, this session offers practical science-based insights you can begin applying right away. And you can use this information to create a more meaningful, human-centered environment. I've had the opportunity to learn from Mike firsthand as a graduate of the program. And what stands out most is his genuine passion. He has a way of making the science feel approachable, inspiring, and incredibly relevant. Mike Peterson, come on down.
Thank you, Jenna. And before I start, I just want to say one thing. The IDS is probably one of the best run associations in the country. I've had the good fortune of speaking at several of their chapters, their national conference, and they are really well run. It's a great organization. So I just want to pass that on. Okay, the presentation today is actually in three parts. I'm going to start with an introduction to the idea of neuroaesthetics and biophilia. The second session is going to be a panel of designers who have all been certified in the science and design. They speak a totally different language. It's amazing. When you hear these designers talk in the second session, you'll be impressed. And then the last session will be a quick review of a virtual show house that we just launched a couple of weeks ago, where every design element is filtered through the lens of neuroaesthetics and biophilic design. It's amazing. It's a beautiful home. So Science and Design is an educational and marketing platform that I started about 10 years ago that essentially helps interior designers, the interior design industry, better understand our role in improving the health of our clients. Do you know that you improve the health of your clients? We kind of intuitively feel that, don't we? But science now documents and supports you and is a new foundation for making that claim. There we go. We're going to talk about beauty today. You know, we don't have a choice. Beauty is part of our DNA. We have a fundamental need for beauty, and that's what you create. When you design, you create beauty, and beauty improves health. We now know that the connection to beauty is not just a preference, it's a biological necessity. And think of it that way. So what you're doing, what you create, is a biological necessity in the minds and bodies of your clients. Dr. Anjan Chatterjee, one of my faculty members, and he heads up the Penn Center for Neuroaesthetics, says that our brains are not passive observers of beauty. They are active participants in how we perceive and connect with the world. Surround yourself with beauty. It shapes who you are. He goes on to say beauty has a hold on us. We're drawn to it. We go to great lengths to get it. We immerse ourselves in it. Sometimes beauty makes us ache. And it's beauty that is the very foundation of the word and the movement, neuroaesthetics. Let's get into it. What's been happening is that science over the last 30 years has been studying us, the world of interior design and architecture, and studying essentially the beauty that is derived from architecture and interior design. And they now know that we improve health. But are we getting credit for it? No. Are we taking credit for it? Is it part of our websites that we're improving health? No. We need to get there. Science is 30 years ahead of us, and they're begging us to catch up. A little bit of background on this subject of neuroaesthetics. Samir Zeki is pretty much considered the father of the movement neuroaesthetics, going back into the late 1990s. He's a neuroscientist at the University College of London. And he says, "It is my conviction that no theory of aesthetics, read beauty, is likely to be complete, let alone profound, unless it is based on an understanding of the workings of the brain." And this is one of the first connections known in science to connect beauty and our minds and bodies. One of the leaders in neuroaesthetics today is Susan Magsamen, a contributor to our certification program. And she's the executive director of the Arts and Mind Lab at Johns Hopkins University. And she says the truth is that aesthetic experiences are hardwired in all of us. They are evolutionary imperatives. And you'll hear that word evolutionary several times today. Encoded in our DNA as an essential part of our humanity. And they're fundamental to our health, well-being, and learning. Now think about what she just said. This is one of the leading specialists in neuroaesthetics in the world today. And she's talking about how what we do improves health. This is, in a way, this revelation is transformative because it should change our industry and move from an industry just creating aesthetics and attractiveness to an industry whose purpose is to literally create health. Our purpose in life should be considered to create health. Harry Malgrave. You heard the previous speaker mention Harry Malgrave. He says, beauty like art is a neurological activity, an urge for and feeling of pleasure, and associated with awe and wonder. Now let's pick this apart just a little bit. Neurological. The benefit we provide is not just emotional. Emotions are hard to measure and calculate. But neurological, the benefit we provide is physical. And being physical, we can calculate it, scan it, and monitor it. He says urge for. What he means is that beauty, art, and design are not a passive interest. They are a compulsion. We have survived over the millennia. We know this now. We've survived over the millennia because we sought out pleasure and beauty. That's how important this is. That's how important you are in creating the beauty that you do. And the idea that aesthetics and design and the arts improve health is worldwide. In Canada, back in November of 2018, the Medical Association of Canada authorized doctors to begin prescribing time spent at art galleries and museums to improve their health. Now think about that for a minute. You go to a doctor, and the prescription for you, instead of a bottle of Xanax, is to go spend an hour a day at an art gallery for the next 2 weeks. That's what's happening around the world. This is Canada. Now, let me offer another way to think about this word neuroaesthetics. Alexandros Lavdis is one of my faculty members. He's a neuroscientist out of Italy. And he says neuroaesthetics is a scientific quest to understand the neurocognitive and evolutionary underpinnings of the aesthetic experience. I bring this to your attention because of the word evolutionary. Ann Sussman, professor of cognitive architecture at Boston Architectural College, talks about this evolutionary aspect of our lives today by saying this: understanding that our brain is an artifact of 3.6 billion years of evolution frames the new direction for design and architecture. Now, what's been eye-opening for me over these last 8 or 9 years is that I'm realizing that we're all in the middle of this vast R&D experiment, that we are the sum of, we're the aggregate of all who have been before us, and we are contributing to who we will be in the millions of years ahead. It's profound. Now, what I've done to help corner this part of the subject and help explain what these scholars are talking about, I've pulled together a few slides that will help remind us of this evolutionary aspect. Let me take you back through time. This is where we lived 100,000 years ago. This is where we grew up as a species. You know, we didn't wake up to the sound of an iPhone alarm. We woke up to the sound of wind, nature, streams, the flutter of wings, and the sheer aesthetic beauty of nature. They were our daily expectations and assumptions for millions of years. Think of the impact this environment has had on our minds and bodies in shaping who we are today. There were no steel girders, no brick walls, no computers. This is what our brains adapted to. The brain evolved in a biocentric world, not a machine-regulated world. We fundamentally need nature. And of course, the famous savanna. This was our habitat, a place which nurtures. This is what fills our DNA. Everyone in this room right now has inherited what you're seeing on the screen. You know, the paradox is interesting, though. Millions of years ago, we lived with the rabbits and the deer and the plants and the trees. Now, we're supposed to be the evolved species. But today, the rabbits and the deer are still in their natural environment. We are not. As an exclamation point to all of this, Nigel Nicholson, the noted scholar out of the United Kingdom, says, you can take the person out of the Stone Age, but you can't take the Stone Age out of the person. We are who we were. But here's the problem. This is where we live today. Anything human-centric about this? This is how we live. Looks like an Atlanta street. It really does. This is Chicago. What's human-centric about a bunch of boxes? The question is this: if aesthetic experiences are required as a result of our DNA and our evolutionary inheritance, what in the world have we done to ourselves over the last 100 years? Do you have an idea now? Do you see where I'm going with this train of thought? Look at the incredible need there is for what you do to help the human species balance an environment that is fundamentally unhealthy for us. We need you. Look at this and be reminded of our opportunity and the need in front of us. On the left is who we are and what has molded us over millions of years. And on the right, in this case, is Los Angeles. Okay? Now, as I pull this first section together of this talk, I want to read a quote that Susan sent me a while ago. She says, our brains and bodies are always sensing and interpreting the world around us. And we know that the design of spaces impacts our biology. The opportunity to use this knowledge to design and create intentional spaces that support our health and well-being, that is the future of design. And I want to add that that is your future as an alternative health resource. And yes, that's exactly what science thinks of our industry, that we are an alternative health resource. In fact, I always suggest in my talks, write it down. I am an alternative health resource. By the way, you're getting a big burst of serotonin right now because of the image on the right. Anybody recognize that by any chance? That's the Unitarian Church in Charleston, South Carolina. A perfect example of fractal beauty. And we'll talk about fractals in a minute. And it's not just neuroscience saying all of this, it's the medical industry as well. Dr. Claudia Miller is the head of environmental medicine at the University of Texas. And she says, architects and designers have a greater ability to improve public health than medical professionals. Now, folks, this should be an aha moment. This is kind of like, are you kidding me? Doctors, the people that we trust with our health, are saying that we have a greater ability to improve health than they do. That's how important what we do is. Look at the change in our value proposition when we begin to realize and understand what science knows, that we improve health. Dr. Douglas Wood of the Mayo Clinic, the Center for Innovation at the Mayo Clinic, talks about our industry as having patients as clients because the future of medicine is in the home. Why? Because the home prevents and it cures. All right. Now, I have two slides here. I'm going to digress just a little bit because I want to talk about something that we all experience every second of every day, but we really don't know. We don't recognize that we're experiencing it. We're going to talk about the unconscious mind, in science called the subliminal brain. Eric Kandel is a noted physiologist, Nobel Prize winner, who says that 95% of brain activity is beyond our conscious awareness. All of our conscious thoughts are unconscious first. Now, let me say that sentence again. All of our conscious thoughts and actions are unconscious first. Folks, we're skating through life. We could live an entire life without a conscious thought. For the first 3 seconds, roughly, of experiencing something new, a new sight, a new sound, a new smell, the unconscious mind is in control. So it begs the question, are you designing for the unconscious mind? You have up to 3 seconds to grab the attention of the person you're communicating with. Think about it. Now, I don't want to just talk about this. I want to actually show you and let you experience the unconscious mind. So the next slide, I have 3 geometric shapes. I'm going to click to it, and I want you to be in touch. I'm going to ask you to be in touch with what you really see and experience when you see those 3 geometric shapes. Ready? Now you see 3 geometric shapes, but you see something more, don't you? What are you seeing? Facial structure. Did you have to think about it? That's your evolutionary inheritance kicking in. You immediately know that that's facial structure. So the question again is, are you designing for the subliminal brain? Now, I want to introduce you, based on the unconscious mind, I want to introduce you to some new software, new for our industry, that 3M came out with several years ago. It's called VAS, Visual Attention Software. And VAS has the ability to predict where the unconscious mind will be attracted. So think about how you could use that in measuring your renderings, your website design. It's heavily used right now in packaged goods and website design. Think about, for instance, walking down the chips aisle at a supermarket, all the different shapes of the bags, the different fonts, the different colors. You have up to, the supplier has up to 3 seconds to grab the attention of that person pushing the cart in the supermarket. So what we're going to do, we're going to play with this a little bit. It's called visual spell check is the way they refer to it at 3M. Now take a look at this image. What items do you think are going to grab your attention right off the bat?
Coffee table or
What did you say?
coffee table.
Coffee table.
The lamps.
The lamp, what else? Okay, let's see what VAS tells us. Now, the way to read this, by the way, is that there's an 82% chance that the blue and white banner is going to be seen in the first 3 seconds. There's a 90% chance that the coffee table will be seen in the first 3 seconds. Now, the numbers add up to more than 100% because our eyes are constantly darting back and forth. So think about this. All right, now what is it about these elements that are attracting our attention? I heard color, and I heard the spiral on the coffee table. What else?
Size and scale. The elements and principles of design.
Okay. Our unconscious mind is attracted to edges, color contrast, color intensity, and faces. Okay? Think about maybe a million years ago walking up to the edge of a cliff and immediately recognizing the danger at that point. We're very, very careful about edges. Think of the millions of years contrasting blue skies with a green tree canopy. All right. I want to show you how this can work. And by the way, this is a very inexpensive software. I think it's like $49 a month. And just if you want to play with this on your own, go to Google up 3M VAS, and it'll take you right to the site. And they give you a couple of free trials. So here's a real-life example of using VAS. This is an ad I produced for a client in Aventura, right outside of Miami. And you know, we produced the ad and we liked it, and my team, we were all thrilled with it. And I thought, well, wait a minute, let's make sure, and we'll run it through VAS and see what VAS tells us. So we ran it through VAS, and you know, we were pretty happy. The logo was getting attention, the tagline was getting attention, and the body of the ad was getting attention. So we said, okay, let's go ahead and produce a 2-page version of that. And so we produced this ad. And we were feeling pretty cocky because we got the first one right. And so we were just about ready to send it off to the publisher. And I said, well, let's check and be sure that this is still working. The actual project wasn't getting any attention. And if you know anything about magazine publishing, you know how important it is to have a right-hand read. Our eyes tend to go to the right-hand page before the left. So we were in trouble. So we had to go back, and we used the basic elements of VAS to design a new ad. And here's what we came up with. We added her headshot, 98% chance that the headshot was going to be seen in the first 3 seconds. Okay? This is a valuable tool, and a lot of our certified designers are using VAS now as a visual spell check to corroborate. It also makes them look a little more professional in front of the client because they're using this new software tool for interior design, okay? Now that you're all experts in visual attention software, we're gonna put you to the test. I spoke recently at the flooring convention in Las Vegas. I had 60 different flooring retailers in the room. And so I thought I would test this out. And so I pulled one of their ads, I took the logo off, and this is a typical ad in the flooring industry. What do you think is going to happen with this ad?
You're not sure what it's advertising.
What do you think is going to attract the attention? The plant? What else? Does anybody else see a facial structure? When I showed this to the room of 60 different flooring retailers, there was an audible groan in the audience. All right. So we're gonna switch gears and talk a little bit about one of the elements that is so important in the world of neuroaesthetics, and that is nature and biophilic design. And I want to set up the importance of biophilic design by showing you 3 different national headquarters of 3 leading industry leaders in the world today. This is not a spaceship. This is Apple's $5 billion headquarters in California. Every workstation has access to natural sunlight and greenery. Why did Etsy feel the need to turn their Brooklyn headquarters 100% biophilic? Why is Microsoft building conference rooms in treetops? Now, I could show you hundreds more examples, but the bigger question is this: what science do these guys know that motivate them to do this, to increase productivity, to increase creativity in their employee force? What can we learn from these industry leaders? Biophilia is becoming the darling of the interior design industry today. 10 years ago, most people didn't know what biophilic design was, but it has come on strong. It has come on strong because we have to remember that we are nature, okay? We're naturally drawn to this subject matter. So let's take a closer look at this new darling of our industry. What is biophilia? If you break the word down, bio meaning nature, philia means love of. It's the opposite of phobia, so we're talking about our love of nature. It's a return to our roots. Sorry for the pun. And biophilic design is the deliberate attempt, essentially, to design for the innate need that we have as humans, the need we have for nature. A little bit of history. Biophilic design we started studying biophilia roughly in the early 1980s, and one of the studies was done in a hospital right outside of Philadelphia. The doctors were noticing that some patients were recovering faster from surgery than others. And so they brought in Professor Roger Ulrich out of Texas A&M to study this crazy thing that was happening. So what he learned was that some of the patients had a view out the window of a brick wall. Others had a view out the window of a tree landscape. And lo and behold, they were able to document the fact that those who had a view of the tree landscape, the recovery time was down roughly 1 day faster than the others. And the use of pain medication was down 22%, because we now know that the pain receptors in our brain are aligned with those receptors that seek out pleasure and beauty. How does this apply to us in our industry? Stephen Keller, in his book, Nature by Design, and by the way, if you like this subject, that is an excellent place to start. The book is titled Nature by Design, and the author is Stephen Keller. He says that natural form can be considered, that natural form that we find in nature can be considered as a creative or compositional grammar for architecture and design. Look at the fluidity, look at the movement in these items. Nature as the compositional grammar of design. Now, before we get into applying biophilic design, I want to talk just a little bit about the health benefits of biophilia. Remember, we started this talk by explaining that we create health in what we do. The beauty we create creates health. And so one of the biggest and most important tools that you have in your toolbox is biophilia and biophilic design. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of examples. This is a hospital in Singapore. It's called the Khoo Teck Puat Hospital. It's generally considered the standard in hospital design. It is 100% biophilically designed. It's, if you're an architect starting to draw up a new hospital, you make a pilgrimage to Singapore just to see this hospital. This is Maggie Center in the United Kingdom, St. James University. Look at the natural sunlight. Look at the natural color tones, the pockets of greenery, the fractal patterning on the walls and the ceilings. So let me ask you a question. If the medical industry around the world is turning to biophilic design to improve the health of their patients, you know where I'm going with this. Why aren't we using biophilic design to improve the health of our patients? Look at the opportunity we have to change the value proposition of our industry. This is the future for design. This is where we're going as an industry. This is a study that was done by the Rusk Institute outside of New York. 107 cardiac patients were prescribed time spent in a nursery, not just to walk through the nursery, but to literally put their hands in dirt and plant flowers. The result, a decrease in the heart rate of 5 beats per minute after just 30 minutes. This is have any of you heard of the phrase Shinrin Yoku?
Yes, forest bathing. Singapore has a huge bamboo forest.
Yep, yep. Shinrin Yoku, translated, means forest bathing. And this was a study done in the early 1990s by Chiba University in Japan. And what they did was prescribe time spent in the forest for their patients. 420 different patients. The result was a 12% decrease in the cortisol level and a 6% decrease in heart rate. It was so successful of a study that Shinrin Yoku is now a medicine in Japan. So again, instead of being prescribed a bottle of Xanax, you're prescribed time spent in the forest. The importance of nature. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about applying biophilic design. This is a 5-hour presentation in itself, so we're just going to talk about a couple of the different design principles. And all of this next portion comes from Terrapin Bright Green, the consulting firm in Washington, D.C. that is just famous for their study of the importance of nature. So the 4 principles of design, biophilic design, I'm going to talk about are prospect and refuge, organized complexity, modes of mystery, and fractal patterning. Again, let's go back 100,000 years. This is where we lived. Safe and secure in our sanctuary, our refuge, maybe with a fire burning in the front of the cave, but with a view at the prospect of the rest of the world. Prospect and refuge. This is so fundamentally important to the human species today. It's the reason an image like this is so important to us and so calming to us. And one marketing tip, by the way, as you photograph your projects, you might want to consider to be sure to take your pictures from this point of view, because this is calming. This will stop a viewer to your website a little faster than some of the other images. That's how important this is. We just connected 1 million years of evolutionary inheritance. Organized complexity. Look at the multitude of lines, the geometries and scales all blended into this gorgeous image of beauty. All elements highly complex, but organized. And by the way, biophilia is taking us back to the original definition of the word geometry. Geo meaning earth, metry meaning measure, measuring the earth. And by the way, science now tells us that we are naturally attracted to organized complexity because our brains have evolved to be the perfect example of organized complexity. We seek it out. We need it. I mean, after all, how boring is a straight line? It doesn't become interesting until we give it movement. Okay? Here's an example of what organized complexity could look like today. Anybody recognize this space? It's a famous, famous church that was that Gaudí turned the first spade of dirt in 1880. This is La Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. The name of the church? La Sagrada Familia. It took 146 years to complete, and it's supposed to be complete next year. Now, hypothetical here, just in case your customers don't want to wait 146 years to experience organized complexity, here's what it might look like today, with a nice blend of greenery and biophilia thrown in. Modes of mystery, and I have to admit, I didn't get this when I first started learning about this whole idea of design having a mystery to it, but take a look at this. This is where we lived 100,000 years ago. What's at the end of that trail? What's behind the trees on the right? What can I discover next? There's a sense of anticipation and awe in this idea of mystery. And it's one of the reasons that these long telescoping hallways, what's at the end of this hallway? What's behind the door on the left? And here's another image that I just threw in a couple of weeks ago just because I found it riveting. I just love this image, filled with mystery. Okay. The last of the 4 principles I'm going to talk about, fractal patterning. This is a very, very important subject for the human being. Fractals are self-similar patterns over a range of magnification scales, continuous, consistent, and similar geometric images. A fern is a perfect example of fractal patterning. Snowflakes, clouds, waves in the ocean, tree canopies, veins in a leaf, and veins in our bodies. And boy, are they important. Rita Trombin works for Turpin Bright Green, and she has a paper on their website, by the way, called Working with Fractals. And she says the experience of fractals, now get all of this, the experience of fractals has quantifiable health benefits, including reduced stress, improved cognitive functioning, enhanced creativity and problem solving, heightened appreciation for nature, and positive emotions. All of that because you're surrounding yourself with fractal beauty. Again, it's a derivative of organized complexity because it's ascending or descending in scale, but extremely important. Stephen Keller goes on to say that humans have evolved to thrive in complex yet coherent fractal environments. And this next sentence is so important. We perceive fractal environments as having the highest aesthetic value. Of all the design elements in your toolkit, the number one most important design element is fractal beauty. And by the way, these are the solar-powered treescapes in Singapore's Gardens by the Bay. Singapore is probably the leading city in the world in terms of biophilic design and usage of nature. They consider themselves to be the city in a garden. That's their mantra. That's their mission in life, to be a city in a garden. Let's make this a little more personal. Remember I said that we are nature. Look at this. A circulatory system and a tree canopy, and you could virtually flip the colors, and they would be almost exactly the same. Richard Taylor is one of my faculty members, and he's the like a world leader in fractal beauty and fluency. And he says that fractals are the basic building blocks of nature. Fractals are the basic building blocks of nature. He also says that fractals are the fingerprint of nature. Now, before I go to the next slide, I want everybody to look at the palm of your right hand. No, your right one. I love that. There's always one in the room. Yeah, the other right, that's right. What do you see? You see the basic building blocks of nature. Okay? All right. So the last portion of this talk is really to talk about what are people doing now with this knowledge? And where are you on the spectrum of early adopter versus somebody who's going to wait a few more years? We've been running our certification program now for 2.5 years. We now have hundreds of designers who are certified. You're going to hear from 3 of them in just a few minutes. And what we're beginning to see is that they are changing the language of design. And that's what I'm going to ask you to take a look at. I'm going to show you several website pages. I just printed the screen out, and that's what I'm going to show you. And I want you to see what's happening around the country now in terms of the new language of design. This is Day House Studio out of Utah, Bridging Interior Design and Health, a new paradigm for design. And by the way, you're not going to see any comments like timeless design in any of these websites. Look at that. This is John Valentine that you're going to hear from in just a minute. Your home is either working for you or against you. And by the way, that quote from earlier today was Ty Farrow, who says, design is never neutral. And if you like this subject, you have to get your hands on his brand new book called Constructing Health. It's a beast of a book, but it is filled with just great, great content. Neuroaesthetics, the science of how beauty and art affect our mind. All of these designers are certified. This is Patricia Kennedy at a Rendezvous Design in Fort Lauderdale. Wellness is the new wealth. Am I okay on time? Okay. Well, okay. All right. This is Cat Blue that you'll hear from in just a minute. Design is where science and art break even. And this is good old Jenna. See? You didn't know I was going to do that, did you? And this is Trisha Turk out of Colorado Springs, the interior design firm dedicated to the beauty of well-being. Now, anybody that knows me knows I include a bibliography at the end of my presentations, and this is where it started for me. I was publisher of Lux Magazine back on December 15th, 2015, and I was having lunch with Don Ruggles, an architect in Denver, Colorado. And Don starts talking at lunch, he starts talking about how beauty improves health. And for the first, I was an advertising guy, okay? For the first 15 minutes, it was going right over my head. But then all of a sudden, something clicked. And I thought, wait a minute, beauty improves health. Designers create beauty. Designers improve health. A year later, I quit Lux and decided to spend the rest of my life and career helping the industry realize its role as an alternative health resource. 2 years after I met him, Don came out with this book, Beauty, Neuroscience, and Architecture. It's an excellent primer to start learning about this subject matter. This is Ann Sussman's book. I've already referenced her, Cognitive Architecture. It's a little deeper, a little more academic, but it's an excellent, excellent book. It gets into subjects like thigmotaxis. And I know everybody here knows what thigmotaxis is, right? When you walk into a restaurant and there's nobody in the restaurant, do you sit at the table in the middle of the room? You go sit at the table against the wall, where your back is protected and you have a view to the rest of the room. It's very similar to Prospect and Refuge. We are wall huggers, and that's what thigmotaxis means. And this is the book I just mentioned, Ty Farrow. It is just outstanding. And what I liked about Ty is he sees in us the future that we have as an industry. When he listen to these words, understanding design's role in shaping who we are and what we might become stands to increase the gravity of our work, elevate the stature of our role in industry, and highlight the extent of our contribution to human and ecological well-being. That's our future. That's your future. You should also know that I've created a website that I think about as being a library for you. So go to, if you're interested in the subject, you want to learn more, go to scienceanddesign.com. There are 2 brand new, what they call pillar pages, an exhaustive discussion of neuroaesthetics, and also an exhaustive study of biophilia as well. The certification program, if you're interested, there's a blue card on the tables that can tell you about all the details. It's 22 classes. You have up to a year to complete. It's self-paced, it's online, and 13 CEUs. Last slide. So let's listen to Professor Malgrave, a world-renowned neuroscience architect, when he says, I believe we're on the verge of a revolution in the way that we approach design. It will no longer be guided by the speculative constructs of borrowed theory, but rather by a more basic understanding of the human organism and its existential engagement with the built environment. This is the epiphany that needs to take place. So for all of us in the room, are we hearing a wake-up call? This is the future of interior design, an industry that heals. Neuroscience, the medical industry, these scholars that we've referenced, all see our future better than we see it right now. So let's catch up. We are in an industry whose future is born in science. Thank you. Do we have time for questions?
We do.
Okay.
We can do questions, and we'll do a quick 15-minute break. Anybody have any questions? Such amazing. Yeah, such amazing information.
Is it mind-blowing?
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it really is. And what's important about this subject is that you intuitively understand a lot of this. What science is giving us now are the words to document, support, and confirm your intuitions. That's what's so exciting for our industry. And I heartily recommend, if you have the time, get certified, because this is the future. When you hear these designers come up next, and the language they're using and how they approach design, that's the future of where we're going.
We've got a question here.
Yes.
As designers, we obviously understand the need for design, so much so that we made a career out of it. You know, we're drawn to it. We have clients that hire us because they have that, but sometimes they'll have a spouse that isn't necessarily on board. Do you have any suggestions to explain to
For
them?
marital help?
No. to advocate for, to tell them the importance of design and the beauty and all the things that we innately know.
To tell your spouse or your clients?
The client's spouse is not necessarily on board as much as the client who hired you.
We just published, in the Neuroaesthetics page that I just referenced on my website, we just published what we call the Client Conversation Guide that will help you with all of those questions. We have actual scenarios in the guide. We have typical questions and the answers to those questions. Because one of the things that we do get, that I get, is, well, how do I talk about a word like neuroaesthetics? You know, and that Client Conversation Guide will walk you through all of that.
Can you just repeat what you said when you said we all kind of really knew this already, but what it's now doing is giving us words to confirm and solidify? And what did you say there?
Just that. That was pretty good. Well, essentially, you know, what science is giving us is the confirmation, is confirming our instincts and our intuition. One of the things that we see from the designers that are certified is a bursting of confidence. You know, I mean, you now know that your intuition is right. There's no questioning any longer. I mean, Johns Hopkins and the Penn Center for Neuroaesthetics is confirming what you were thinking about your work. And so it's exalting, honestly. Any other questions?
Any other questions? If not, thank
Okay,
you so
thank
much,
you.
Mike. That was wonderful.